Hey everybody, what's up? For those of you who more or less just watch my Lost videos, I've been doing a thing this week called Vlog a Day for the whole week. Uh, this is my vlog for today. I've been enjoying it, but it's time to get down to business. It's time to talk about Lost. I'm talking about episode 506, season 5, episode 6, called 316. The opening scene was the scene I thought the entire series was going to end. It was the close up of Jack's eye. My whole theory was that the whole thing was going to be a continuous loop. But once again, producers have completely thrown me for a loop. I have no idea after this episode, which seemed very much to be completely changed the direction of this series. I never expected it. It was incredible. Okay, the first thing we see, Jack in the jungle, just like season 1. There's all these parallels going on, and he's in the lagoon with Kate and, he's in the lagoon where Kate and Sawyer found the money, back in season 1. We get a title plate that says 46 hours earlier. We're talking to Miss Hawkins. She tells the whole explanation of the island. She takes them down underneath the Catholic Church, and I have to add, there's a lot of Catholicism in this show lately. A name like Christian Shepherd, both parts of that name actually are very Christian based, but actually very Catholic based too. But the whole theory, so many stories and stuff that just so ties in so well with my Catholic upbringing. The church is above a Dharma station called the Lamppost. For those of you that are fans of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there is a lamppost there. It's kind of a gateway to Narnia. That was a nice little nod to that. And there was also they go down by the big pendulum. They find out how that the island is always moving, and that's why they were never found. There's a picture of the U.S. Army from 1954 of the island, which would have been about when we saw the flashback with Jughead. So I'm thinking that that's when Miss Hawkins was there, and that she in fact was Ellie. Her name is Eloise. She tells Desmond, "The island isn't done with you yet," and he of course screams back, "Well, I'm done with the island." I loved how Desmond is just walking through. He's pissed off, and that pendulum is swinging back and forth, and he walks right through it and never gets hit. They have to go to Ajera Airlines, Flight 316, which is part of the name of this episode. And she said recreate the circumstances as close as possible to Flight 815, the original one. Mrs. Hawkins pulls Jack aside, gives him a little private conversation, and she gives him Locke's suicide note. And she says, John has to be the substitute for your father. And she says, you have to take a leap of faith, Jack. Now, Locke has said that to Jack many times. So this whole idea, the first season, you had the tie between man of science, man of faith. Jack is slowly getting faith. The fact that he's following these ridiculous ideas now about traveling through time. They go back to, he's back in church. You see a praying Ben, and he tells him the story about doubting Thomas, the apostle. And he talks about the resurrection. One of the things that I noticed last episode, I've heard this around, I didn't see it. The truck, or the van that Ben is driving around that they have the casket in, I forget what the name of it is on the side, but it's an anagram for reincarnation. The whole thing, they're talking about faith again, about believing, and that was a big thing with Locke. So, it definitely is turning into kind of this Jesus thing, and it looks like the resurrection or reincarnation of Ben will probably happen on the island, just like it happened to Christian Shepherd. So then they all kind of depart and have to get on the plane like in 36 hours. Ben says, I made a promise to an old friend of mine. Next thing we see is Jack at a bar with a drink that he doesn't take. There's another scene in the apartment, at Jack's apartment, he doesn't take the drink again. It's almost like the island isn't allowing him to drink, to go back to that way he was. With him in the bar, that actually goes back to, again, Jack being in the bar before 8:15, but also Christian Shepherd was in a bar before he died. And I heard a theory that Christian Shepherd was drunk before he died. Some people are thinking Christian may have been on the island before, and the reason he got drunk is he wanted to go back. So like Jack and Christian's story are beginning to tie together or be parallels of each other, which makes a lot of sense. Jack gets the phone call at the bar. It's his grandpa. They're at an old folks' home. They're watching a magic show with a rabbit that they're going to make disappear. That was a nice nod to the Orchid Station and the time-traveling bunnies. Jack's grandpa, just by chance, happens to be, he's going to run away, and he gives Jack his dad's shoes. The fact that his grandpa was going to run away, this all seems too coincidental. Again, almost like either his grandpa's in on it, we're going to see something with his grandpa's lineage and Christian Shepherd's lineage, or just that the island was willing this to happen, that he gets these shoes. Because if you guys remember, whenever we see Christian Shepherd, he's wearing white sneakers on the island. He's been wearing white sneakers since season 1. And the reason he's wearing white sneakers is he didn't have black shoes on in the casket. And Jack actually says he wasn't enough, or he wasn't even worth a decent pair of shoes to me. So him giving those shoes to Locke kind of ties that up. So Jack's back at his apartment. A strung out Kate is there, and she just looks like something happened. She says, "Don't ever ask me about Aaron again." What happened to Aaron? Okay, and then Ben calls from the boat landing. He's all beat up. What happened there? Did he try to go by the boat landing? Does this have to do with Penny or Desmond or Widmore? Who beat the crap out of him? What happened in that 36 hours with Kate, with Hurley, with Desmond, or with Sayid, Kate and Ben? In those 36 hours we don't see. I think each of those could be an episode in itself, and I see part of the direction of the series going is finding out now what happened during that day. What happened to Aaron? Aaron is one of the 6 who was supposed to go back. But yet we had Claire saying don't take him back. So I have no idea what happened to Aaron, or why Sayid is in cuffs, or how did Hurley was in prison the last time we saw him in that very nice looking orange jumpsuit. So Jack has to pick up Ben at the meat packing place. So the coffin is in the meat locker, which that whole scene just creeped me the hell out. He switches the shoes and he says to a dead Ben, who I was expecting to wake up. He says, "This is even crazier than you were." The 06 all shows up at the airport. Sayid's handcuffed. Okay, Hurley's reading a comic book, just like Michael's son Walt was reading a comic book. He buys up all the standby tickets, like 78 of them or something, so nobody else will get killed in what they're assuming will be a crash. Okay, Ben's all beat up, just like kind of the first time we met Ben in season 2. So they're trying to replicate the flight 815 as good as possible. Hurley has the guitar, which is up kind of Charlie. You have Kate, seems kind of strung out in her body language. She's got the glasses on, just like Charlie the rock star. Ben shows up at the last minute, like Hurley did. You had Sayid in handcuffs, like Kate was. You have Sun looking at her wedding ring, just like Rose was. The similarities are amazing. You have Locke in the bottom, of the plane, just like Christian Shepherd was. Then all of a sudden, he has a conversation with Kate, and he says, "I can't believe we're all together. How did Hurley and Sayid get here?" And she goes, "You know what, we might all be on the same plane, but we're not together," which I thought was an interesting nod to the live together, die alone thing. All of a sudden you hear the pilot, and it's Frank Lapidus. Even he's being brought together. He was originally supposed to be the pilot for 815 before I think he got drunk or something. At that point, one of the airline attendants gives Jack that suicide note, which Jack didn't know. I don't know if we knew that Locke actually committed suicide. She gives him the suicide note. He reads it, and it says, "I wish you had believed in me." Now, I need to read something. The name of the flight was number 316. But here is a passage from the Bible of John 3:16 from the New International Version. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. His suicide note said, I wish you had believed in me. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Okay, so it's looking, now again, they'll switch this all up, but it's looking like there's going to be some resurrection of Locke, kind of just like Christian Shepherd was resurrected. At that point, once he gets done reading it, this note was kind of following him. White light, bam, and then we're back to the jungle. I think when Locke pushed the frozen donkey wheel in last episode, it shot a beam of light up. But unlike 8:15, when the beam of light that Desmond made happen, when he didn't press the button that shot up from the hatch and crashed 8:15, I think the white light from Locke moving the frozen donkey wheel was one of the flashes in time that they've been jumping back and forth and whatever through time, like we've been seeing all season so far. And I think they were finally above the island in kind of that radius, that bubble. Now I believe they got sucked in. They wake up, they're back in the jungle, they replay the scene, and all of a sudden, who shows up in a brand new Dharma van but Jin? We saw that same brand new Dharma van at the very beginning of the season, when it looked like it was about 1970. Late 70s, early 80s, we see the Dharma Initiative in its swing. So it looks to me like our Losties, at least the few of the Oceanic 6 that we've seen so far, are going to be hooking up with Jin at the Dharma Initiative camp. So we're going to be stuck in this time period and learn a lot about Dharma, probably a young Ben. There's a lot going on here that can be happening in this, and it only makes sense if Jin is there, that Juliet and Sawyer and Miles are there as well. So there's a lot of story now that what they set up with this one can happen. Next episode is called The Life and Death of Jeremy Bentham, so it looks like it's the whole Locke story. I wonder if at this point we'll find out a little bit what happened to Aaron, what happened to Kate, or Saeed, or Hurley to get them on the plane, or also what happened to the people flashing in time on the island for them to be on the plane, or for them to be in the Dharma time, rather. There's a lot of story now that needs to come together, that they need to fill in the spaces again. So this completely changed everything. This episode really stayed with me. So far, this is the one that stayed with me the most. And it was really interesting that only those little bits of it took place on the island. This season is just bam, 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 and I'm just loving it. It took me a while to get into the time traveling thing, but now I'm into it, and I just love the convention. I love what's happening in this season. So, that's all for now. This is running a little late, but I'm going to let it go. I'm kicking it old school this week, no editing. So that's all for now. Talk to you guys later. See you next week. Bye.